Okay, so today I thought I'd do a video on helping your dogs getting used to riding in the boot of the car or in the car in general. I'll get a few things sorted and we'll see you in a bit. So riding in the car is probably one of the big things you'll have to overcome when it comes to puppies and well, rescue dogs, any kind of dog that hasn't obviously been in a car before. All I would suggest is making sure you spend some time in the car with them beforehand. Don't just shove them in and go for a ride. So bring your dog's food out here, let them have dinner in the car. Bring them out for 5 minutes, read a book or a magazine in the car while they're in the boot, just so they can get used to it and relax in the boot, so they know this is their space, this is something they don't need to panic about when they come in. Also, make sure that you don't take them to the vet, the groomers, anything that they're going to hate the first few times that they come out in the car. Go somewhere nice, park, walk, swimming, anything like that they're going to enjoy. Make sure they go there the first few times you take them in the car, so that the car is associated with a positive thing and not a negative. So I've got both my dogs in the boot, they're just chilling while I do this video for you. But the boot is set up nicely for them, it's nice and comfortable. They've got a mat there, and this thing is actually padded as well, so it's nice and comfortable. They've got all their toys in the boot, so they know the toys come from the boot as well. So it's all part of associating the boot with something positive, something that they'll have fun with afterwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these guys for a ride just so you can see what they're like in the boot. So obviously we're not meant to go out for unnecessary journeys, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a ride around the field. As you can see, they're down, they don't really care what we're doing. So, buckle up every trip. Or is it clunk click every trip? Something like that. So yes. Still not sat up. Hello. Good boys. Good, so they're nice and quiet. Nice and quiet. So this is how you would want your dogs to behave in the car, so that it's not of any distraction to the driver. As soon as you start getting your dogs barking in the boot, then you're wanting to sort out the dog and you're not focusing on what you're driving. So the dogs can become a bit of a a danger if they're acting up in the boot. So having a well-behaved dog in the boot is something that every owner should probably strive for. So when you have puppies in the boot, all I would suggest is doing 3 to 5 minutes worth of driving to begin with. I would not do any longer than that, and I would not go down country lanes that are windy. They feel all the G back there, because that is the last thing to whip around the corner. You don't feel anything up the front, so the dog is going to be sliding from side to side if they're not plugged in, and they're going to be getting iller and iller if they're not used to driving on those kinds of roads. So try and keep it straight. Go through a town, village, something like that, where it's straight roads, straight bends, 90-degree bends, up, back, round, back to your house. Do not try and do country roads if you can help it. Obviously it depends where you live. If you can help it, and then come back to your house, because your dog will throw up, especially if it's not used to it. Now when you get to your location, you obviously want your dogs to stay in the car so they don't rush to get out. So you want to have your boot open, and you want your dogs to wait while you open your boot. Well, one did it. That way your dogs are under control and they're not rushing out because they don't know where they are. If you had your car open onto a road, he would obviously be jumping out onto a road, whereas this one is still safe. So if you want to teach the wait as you open and close the boot, it's quite simply, as I said, open and close the boot and ask for the wait, and you want to reward when they have stayed in the boot. So I'm literally just going to open and close the boot, ask them to wait. If they wait in the car, they get a biscuit. If they don't, no biscuit. So close the boot, wait. That's better, good boys. You both get a biscuit. Good. So this again is obviously making them associate the boot with a positive thing, because they're getting treats. Treats are positive. So I'm going to do exactly the same again. We're going to shut the boot all the way shut. I'm going to open it, wait, and you stayed in the boot. Well done. Now we both get a biscuit. Nice and simple, but it will save your dog running about, and it will keep your dog under control when you get to new places. Okay, so if your dog happens to be a barker in the boot or anywhere in the car when it sees either another car or another dog going past the car, then you want to have your no word, your leave it, or even put up blinds like the kiddie blinds up against the window so that they can't see out. So that way you can remove them and put them back up as and when they get better. So obviously when they're barking, it goes up. When they've stopped barking, it can come down. So that way it becomes sort of like a punishment situation. So if they bark, they don't get to see what is outside the window. You can keep that up for the remainder of the journey. Obviously if you're traveling with someone, they can do the up and down thing. You can't do it yourself if you're driving. And if they don't bark, then bring it down, put it back up again if they bark. It's almost like the timeout situation that we covered with the puppy biting and puppy isolation situation. I think all puppies throw up in the car when they first get used to the car and and they go for their first few rides. But it's just a matter of getting used to it, building up those journeys nice and slowly, and not pushing it too far too soon. So doing those 5-minute trips, building it up to 8-10 minutes, and then going for longer. So don't go straight into a nice hour drive down to the countryside with your puppy in the boot, because it's not going to end well for you or your car. Also, on that note, make sure they do not eat before they get in the car for at least an hour, so that they've digested what they've eaten previously, and it's probably come out in a poop by then. That way you're going to have less of a chance of them throwing up, and they're going to feel much more comfortable being in the car. So yeah, try and make sure that you travel at least an hour after they've eaten. When you're travelling long distances in the car, make sure your dog is harnessed suitable harness that is not going to cut into their size, it's nice panelled, I will go and show you what I mean. So panelled harnesses are basically ones that have panel bits of fabric. This is probably the one I prefer to use, just because if he does get into an accident, the weight is going to be a lot more spread over his body, and he's less likely to come into any kind of issues. And then you clip them in so they don't go anywhere. If you impact a car, it's then going to throw the car about, so you don't want your dogs moving about with the car. So clipping them in is then going to reduce that movement by quite a bit. So yeah, clipping them in and making sure that they have enough that they can they have enough length on that lead that they can move and reconfigure themselves in the boot if they need to, but not enough that they can move from one side of the boot to the other. So obviously that's too much length, and there's not much point in them being clipped in. Some people like to have their dogs riding in the back seat or even the front seat. The back seat I can kind of understand, but the front seat is a definite no-no. The amount of airbags that could go off in your dog's face is doesn't bear thinking about. If you're in an accident, the airbags are going to do way more damage than the accident probably will to your dog. So the only reason that I would say the boot is the safest because there's unlikely to be any airbags in the boot of the car, which is airbags are well known to do more damage to your dogs. They can break ribs, they can cause serious damage to your dogs. So the only reason that I want my dogs safe in the boot is because they're away from the thing that could cause them the most harm in the car. Smaller dogs, I know a lot of people put them in the middle of the car. Again, it's down to personal preference. From all the literature and the stuff you read online, the things you've seen on telly, I want my dogs to be the safest when I'm driving about, and the safest place I know and have seen from the research is in the boot of the car. So I've made it the safest place I can do by using the harnesses, the collars, the leads, making it the nicest place for them by doing all the bedding, and keeping it as safe as I can for me by ensuring the grate's there and making sure that they're trained so that I don't have to worry about them in the boot, so I can focus on driving and make it less likely for me to be in an accident. As a final note, I wanted to do a little bit on windows as well. I've seen loads of people with their dogs hanging out of the window. It's cute to look at, yes, but can be very dangerous. All I would suggest when it comes to windows is making sure your dog can stick his nose out the window, nothing more. If that window is even lower, that's enough of space that they can be thrown out the car if you turn around a corner too quick, or even at the right speed. Your dog can get thrown out due to the physical forces being exerted on the car and the dog. If it's not clipped in, it will just go. I mean, there's a few on YouTube that have actually proven this, and it's I don't know why you'd risk it. I mean, he could easily jump out that window if he wanted to, but yeah. But the window is literally only for being able to sniff out or getting some cool air into the back so that they don't overheat. It does not need to be wide open. So that was my sort of heavier take on driving, if you like, and making sure your dogs are safe in the boot of the car. Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you like what I'm doing, then I'll do more. Keep subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye guys.